Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Disgaea RPG video. This is going to be the final video in the opening salvo of the character showcases, rundowns, should you summon videos, and we're going to be talking about the final character that is going to be coming on the Platinum Summon banner. We do have two more characters to come. They will be on the Badass on the 28th of the month, so expect a showcase for them a little bit closer to the time, as I don't like to do these too far out from the summons. But we are going to talk about the one and only King. So if you haven't already, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel and doing all of that good stuff. Just like the last video, I will be telling you at the end if I think King is worth summoning for or skipping. But he is a bit of an oddity, but let's go ahead and talk about him and talk about his skills, his abilities and stuff like that, okay? So King is a spear user, okay? The problematic thing about King, as you'll find out later on, his skills don't really match up to a spear user, okay? Which, when you actually use him with his correct type of weapon, apart from his own weapon that you can get from raids, okay? His skills are based on int, okay? So this weapon here is probably the only spear that's actually going to give him a boost to his int, and you would have to load him up with a lot of int based things like Arcadia glasses, stuff like that, if you want him to actually push big numbers, which for a lot of people can be quite annoying. He's not really built in such a way that he really matches up to the rest of his kit. He's a bit of an oddity. Now his spear does have attack and int on it, so if you do use his own spear, you will get a little bit of boost to your int stat. The only problem is his spear obviously isn't as good as like an R40 spear, for example, so it puts you in a bit of a dilemma about how to actually use this guy. In some ways he might actually work better using a wand more than anything else. So anyway, the Fairy King and member of the 7 deadly sins, bearing the grisly sin of sloth, okay? Let's go ahead first of all and take a look at his Evilities, okay? Now, again, pardon me, just like all the other characters, he has been buffed over on GP, but we are going to talk about his standard buffs here on global, okay, because we don't have the increased stats as expected. So King, first of all, his main ability is Fairy King's Command. Party attack plus int is 13%, okay, so they get a 13% boost to attack and int, meaning he will work on teams that do have int based characters or teams that have attack based characters if you want to use his main ability or his leader skill, as you call it. His NE1 is at the beginning of turn, the enemy character with the highest defense is defense down by 15%, okay, for 2 turns. So he does reduce, whoever has the highest defense, he reduces it by 15%. His NE5, okay, is called Fairy King Spear. When you equip a spear, you will not receive the debuff effect. So basically, if you've got a spear equipped, you won't be debuffed. That could obviously be useful for some occasions, but like I kind of touched on at the start of this showcase, King is an oddity where unless you're using his own spear, he's not necessarily benefiting much from having a spear, okay? His NE7 is called Fairy Guardian, okay, and it's at the beginning of battle, your initial SP plus 25%. So if you get King all the way up to NE7, he's certainly not going to want for SP, which is obviously pretty good. Overall, his Evilities are okay. The not being able to be debuffed is pretty good. The SP is pretty good. The only thing about the not ability to be debuffed is you need to use a spear, and I just feel like to get the most out of King, you're probably not going to use him with a spear because, like I say, all of his skills are boosted by int, which we're going to go ahead and talk about just now. Now, I will, as always, have the characters' animations running in the background so that you guys can see what King looks like when he's pulling off all of his special attacks. But let's look at his skills first of all. So his level 1 skill is called Bumblebee, okay? It's an E rank rising to D rank, 20 down to 13. SP cost. It is a single target, okay, and it does apply a resistance down of 20%. And like I mentioned, that skill is dependent on int, okay, so the more int you have, the more damage that skill is going to do. Now his level 200 is called Form 4 Sunflower, okay, and it is going to be an AoE and a party buff. It's F power rising to F plus. It's 40 going to 31 SP. I might have said that already. If I did, I've repeated it, sorry. And it does apply a buff to the party, okay, which is a party buff of attack plus 10%, int plus 10%, okay. So yeah, he does give a little bit of attack and int boost, as you can see. I mean, a lot of his kit is geared towards buffing int because he does do damage through int, which just is really confusing. I mean, it makes sense because obviously in the he does use a spear. I mean, like, apart from using his chastifold weapon, he does use a spear. But the only problem is he doesn't really work as a spear character because all of his skills are boosted off of int, you know. But anyway, his NE3 is called True Spirit Spear Chastifold. It's an S rising to S plus. It's 70 to down to 58 SP. It's single target and it's a buff to himself. And the buff to himself is int plus 20, defense plus 20. Okay, so his attacks are okay. I mean, his attacks are good. They just kind of conflict with him being a spear user because all of his dependencies are based off of int. So again, I can really see the argument for running him with a staff, and to be honest, if you do run him with a staff, he does have access to some spells that I know that people do like. We'll talk more about this in the summary at the end, okay, but let me just go through and talk about his magic spells. So he does have Wind, he does have Braveheart at level 9, he's got Mega Wind at 15, he's got Mega Braveheart at 22, he's got Giga Wind at 30, and he's got Omega Wind at 40. So clearly from looking at his kit, a lot of you are going to run him with a staff at the start anyway, and get that staff weapon mastery up quite high to unlock Mega Braveheart and stuff like that. But then at that point, you have to ask yourself, well, look, I've already raised his staff mastery up. If I put a good staff on this guy, he's going to get a lot of int, and if he gets a lot of int, then he's going to do a lot more damage off of his skills. But then the problem lies is if you've built him as an int character, for certain things where int characters or staff wielding characters get a boost off of geo blocks or whatever, he's not going to get that because he's actually a spear character, you know. I don't know about King. King's a character that I really don't know about. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I think just now anyway with regards to, is this guy worth summoning for? Now, the weird part about this is, I've already told you in my previous video that I think Merlin is worth summoning for. Now, the way that Global's step-up banners work just now, if you're going to summon for Merlin, you're taking the risk of summoning for King anyway. So basically, if you're someone who's going to summon for Merlin, you really don't have a choice. You're summoning for King as well, because there's a chance at the end of it you can get one or you can get the other, okay? But if they were on a separate banner, okay, I feel like King, while he's not a bad unit, okay, I just feel that he's such an oddity with the way that his kit's built. I personally would say that King's a skip, okay. I think overall, because of how they've built King, he could potentially be one of the worst characters in the collab. Now again, if you do use his own spear, you will get a boost to both int and attack, because that's how his spear's built. But if you go ahead and get like the Pillars of Dialgo, for example, the R40 spear, it's not going to be making the most of King because it's not giving that boost to int. So while King does have his uses, and while King would be good for you as maybe a Mega Braveheart bot, and the fact that you've built him for Mega Braveheart means his attacks will be okay if you're using him as a spear, I just feel that his kit is kind of contradictory to each other, because he's not really built like a spear unit, he is built like an int unit, and I feel you have to use him differently from how he should be used as a spear character, that I would personally say King is worth skipping, okay? And that will be my overall thoughts on this. I think King is a skip. While I don't think he's a bad character as such, so if you pull him, don't necessarily be disappointed. I just don't think King's a character you necessarily need to go out of your way to pull. So that's why I'm going to say King is a skip, okay? So anyway guys, that's it with the 7 Deadly Sins collab rundowns. I've now done all of them apart from the badasses. I will be back to do the badasses later. I am the type of person that if you want to disagree with what I've got to say, please tell me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think. Make sure you like the video, and yeah, if you've not subbed, sub to the channel. And as always dudes, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace and stay healthy. Bye.